tell you, what we have in the offing for you utilities out there, and I'm not telling you this to scare you, but we have in the works basically a utility map, which is what do you have to do unit by unit to deal with air toxics moving forward. That must be considered when investments are made in the utility sector. If you fail to consider that, then you will be investing in utilities that will not be able to meet future air quality standards. So we need to think about how to articulate that challenge to you earlier rather than later, so you can figure out what investments make sense and what facilities no longer make sense to invest in. We are moving forward with the replacement of the Clean Air and Air Interstate Rule, or CAFÉ. That is a major challenge for us, particularly because the courts told us in their wisdom that they weren't really sure about this whole trading thing. Now, if they don't like this whole trading thing, then we are in a lot of trouble with NOx and SO2, because that's the basis of some of the most creative parts of our program. So we have to figure out how we tailor the next rule to take advantage of trading in a way that's legally acceptable, but still drive the reductions we're looking for in the most cost-effective way. We are looking at new source performance standards. Make no mistake about it, that's about new facilities, but shortly after that, it's about existing facilities. And we are looking at that, not just because we want to, but because the courts are telling us we have to. Much of what we do is now dictated by the courts. And our challenge will be to do it legally and to do it on the best science available, but we are consistently going to be driving to where technology can take us and where that intersect or that balance between cost and environmental outcome is correct. And we are literally looking at every criteria pollutant standard that we have in the agency over the next few years. Every single one of them is being revisited. So there are challenges ahead. And if you're looking at the energy world, our challenge together is to look at all of those rules, to align them, to think about where it's taking us, and to say if we get there, at the end of all these rules, we're going to be in the best place. And how do we design this now so that your investments can take us there? And we can understand together what impact we're having on both the environment and the economy, and how we maintain energy reliability, and how we deliver on President Obama's promise of a clean energy future. And as you know, the President is not shy about talking about energy efficiency. Secretary Chu considers it to be his religion. If you look at his web, that's what he tells you. He is an energy efficiency guru, and it is going to drive a lot of the decisions that move forward, as well as the thirst for more renewable energy, so we can drive towards energy independence. Now, the issue that I haven't mentioned, and I'm going to mention quickly, is that we have this other thing called greenhouse gases, this other little issue called carbon constraints, this other little issue called climate change that is also on the agenda. Now, I honestly believe that we can achieve significant climate change reductions by taking the same actions you would want to take to reduce air pollution in general. And I will tell you that we are going to be trying to identify a pathway where we can have it all, because anything less won't be good enough. The best solution for climate change is a comprehensive energy bill moving forward that provides a cap-and-trade system so that we have the best, most creative, innovative, and cost-effective pathway forward to reduce greenhouse gases as aggressively as science is telling us they need to be reduced. As you probably know, back a few months ago, I think we put out a proposed endangerment fund. Now, if you don't know the significance of that endangerment finding is basically a two-step process. One, it asks the question whether or not greenhouse gases that are being emitted by men, I don't take any acceptance of this as a woman. It's totally man-made emissions. Do they actually pose a significant public health and environmental hazard? And number two, do light-duty vehicles contribute to that? The draft proposal, or the proposal that was put on the table by the administrator, was that the answer to those two questions was yes. If that is confirmed through a final decision, then that means that greenhouse gases are regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency, and they will fall within the rules and regulations under the Clean Air Act. Now, what we also know is that the President made a very big announcement called the light duty, basically called the Clean Car Rule, which was the first national car program that actually aligned CAFÉ standards with a greenhouse gas emission standard that was proposed by the Environmental Protection Agency. If the endangerment finding remains positive when it's issued within the next few months, that means in March we will have a regulation that actually controls greenhouse gases being emitted by vehicles, and that means everything else under the Clean Air Act that will be triggered will be triggered. And so we have also put out a rule that's called PSD, and if you don't know it, it's basically about the portion of the Clean Air Act that looks at permitting facilities to make sure that new facilities don't continue to contribute to significant air quality deterioration, and that's the new facilities and major modifications. We have put out a draft rule so that that is ready at the same time as the light-duty vehicle rule, if it progresses in that direction, so that we then identify all facilities that emit more than 25,000 tons of greenhouse gases a year, and those facilities will be subject to requirements related to their potential for significant deterioration in air quality in Title V works. We are, through that process, also exempting smaller facilities and cows. We are not going to go after Dunkin' Donuts, and we're not going to go after cows, but we will be creating a process to take a look at facilities that generate significant amounts of greenhouse gases, and we will be looking at those in terms of what their contribution is, and we have already established a committee that is looking at what is the best available control technologies for those facilities moving forward, so that while Congress debates and hopefully passes a comprehensive bill, in the meantime, we are going to make sure that the amount of greenhouse gases we emit doesn't continue to rise with business as usual. Now, the other issue that we have recently put out is a mandatory reporting rule. And I will tell you that's the same trigger level, that's 25,000 tons a year or more, and that will be about 14,000 facilities across the country will now begin to have to report their greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the value of that, I think, is twofold. That rule is in effect now. It means that facilities will have to start calculating their emissions beginning January 1 of next year and report the following year. So information will be available in 2011. But that information has really two values. One is, just like the toxics release inventory on the toxic side, which brought to light information to the public on how much emissions were being emitted by different facilities, it called attention to those issues, and it generated in and of itself tremendous momentum to reduce those emissions. I expect that this rule will do the same. It will provide public information that will then drive industries themselves to want to get below that 25,000 level to the best they can and try to get off of the list and out of the public view, because nobody wants to be on a list of any kind in terms of emissions, even if it's something like greenhouse gases. Now, the second issue is, I just think it's going to be enormously valuable in the course of reporting and looking at greenhouse gases for business owners, for facility managers, to take a look at what they are generating in terms of greenhouse gases.